Hi guys, and welcome back to another debate and theory-ish episode. But today it's gonna be focused more on Lupin's pattern so far. In the future, it might not be part of the debate and theory, but for right now, it's being theory over here and not its own type of thing. So I'll probably do another one of these just before school starts in August, and then again on the finale time. So what is Lupin's Pat Ranger? So first, I do want to say is you would think with two teams you would probably try more balance their perspectives, but nope. Like you really do get a lot more of the Lupin Ranger side. You know, they're normally like self-sufficient. It does come out more that Kugure only really shows up like when he needs to, like when they have a collection or something. Like even though like Alpha 6 is with the In Space and Lost Galaxy Rangers, that's kind of where Lupin understands in comparison to the Patterners who have their boss and then their robot assistant, Jim Carter. Interesting background to his name. So when we've already had two monsters be in two episodes, one included in part one that got away, the other was a true two-parter, and then there's the one that was introduced in today's episode, Sunday episode 9, that he's gonna be a two-parter as well. But it's kind of weird. Again, that's kind of a weirder two-parter type deal. Also interesting that we need a fourth Zord or Mecha, depending on where you are, in order to create the actual teams, Zords, Megazords, or Gaddy. Like, because normally in the past, you've had three Zords can just do what would work, but they make it interesting, like they're kind of forced to share instead of just duking out against each other every episode. Yeah, but I do feel eventually that might happen, that they might be able to form both their Megazords at the same time, but right now that is not the case. Originally, we all thought, I think, that Good Strike would be required to defeat all the monsters, but they do have their auxiliary swords that they can use to defeat monsters. Like Power Rangers use their biker. Like there was something that I did learn from today's episode that I definitely get to later on at the end when I start discussing these about that. So feel definitely a lot of good character development episodes. Definitely episode 8 was definitely a good filler episode. I do say so myself. Tsukasa is the Pink Ranger. I think of Mikasa as Tsukasa, but that might be just because he takes Spanish and that's just what it sounds like to me. She has a lot of fluffy things. Kind of reminds me of my mom a bit, to be honest. And also, number 7, the other female Ranger Spotlight episode, has my favorite so far, because we kind of see a Romeo and Juliet story is trying to play out as Mika's a Lupin Ranger and Sakura is the Green Pat Ranger. And he's also comedic relief, as seen in number 3, where he kind of gets stuck in gum, and yeah, I think it's gum, or wherever that monster dropped him. Mika was bullied because of her style, and it kind of did remind me of Z a little bit from SPD. That also does remind me a bit about Buttercup in Night Squad, because she gets bullied by everybody, and then since everybody hates Sage, she ironically becomes best friends with her. There's any story that kind of works like that, maybe with SPD between Sky and his buddy, but they're not like really together a lot. It's just like his old friend comes in from one episode, turns out to be a monster, and gone type deal. But Yumi's friend Prince tells the other girls not to judge a book by its cover. She's looking pretty good at drawing and won a manga competition before she was taken away by the Gangler. I definitely know a lot of good drawers, to be honest. Go back to what I was saying about that the next effectual debate in theory episode will be more based on comparing Night Squad and Lupin River's Pat Ranger. So I feel like that's definitely a good one to look forward to when I always do feel like the idea of right now for episode 11 may or may not go through. But I also have a lot of other challenge things coming up, which I'll highlight in the round table coming up later in the month. So, episode 8, I do want to say that's probably the best filler episode I've seen because it came out on April 1st, so it's kind of April Fool's E. Because pretty much the Power Rangers try to prank the Lupin Rangers, thinking that their robot, Jim Carter, is a gangler instead of his little blue hat. They give him a safe to put on his head. It's full of fooling around, and Kai's the Triforce Strike. So it looks like the Lupin Rangers are there, even though Yumika and Tuma are still in the shop, and Kogure disguises himself as Kairi, and then, well, comes out that he's actually Kogure, and pretty good. Gucci is really the only main gangler in that episode. The Power Rangers don't morph in that episode, and they also do spawn giant foot soldiers in that sequence, and I did actually want to mention episode 9 because that did come out today. Shows that gangler aren't like Minecraft mobs because they don't drop their collection upon death, because Kachiro used the biker shoot down the monster before he was pretty much able to defeat, for the Lupin Rangers to really get the collection, but it was only blue and yellow because Red was dealing with someone else who had to lead to another collection piece. French woman who's showing off jewelry in Tokyo, actually, and so they're kind of sad about that. Kind of ends in a somber mood for the Lupin Rangers, but definitely next episode it's gonna get a lot better. Like, it's gonna get a lot more interesting in general, especially since there are now more. Especially now since there technically are 3 auxiliary Zords in the Lupin Rangers' possession: Cyclone, and then Blade and Scissors, which are together because Scissors goes on top of Blade, actually. So it can form pretty much Lupin Knight, pretty much. That's pretty much what I'm calling it, Lupin Knight. So anyways, what are your thoughts on Lupin Rangers Pat Ranger as of this point? Leave those thoughts in the down there. I feel it's boosted up in the list before Zyuohger and Q Ranger. I don't know if Q Ranger would get adapted. Zyuohger would get adapted. I do feel there's definitely good plots there, monsters, but it's definitely more likely than Toku-Uger, I would say. Toku-Uger, I feel, is definitely not getting adapted. They've already adapted Cosmo from that. I do feel definitely more monsters, and not themselves, but definitely the villains. You definitely can use them to your advantage. Again, kind of like with Zyuohger, definitely good monsters, and yeah, it's just the cube aspect of Zyuohger you would have to go through, but again, definitely good monsters and villains in both those series. They can definitely try and pull them in, I did do that for Hexagon, where I did pull them in, but it was like for only like a few episodes, where the counterparts of the Wild Force who meet up with an earlier version of Galvanax, a male Mammonis, because now he's actually male in the Sentai. So yeah, that's kind of all weird about that. Anyways, this has been Lindsay Yale. Comment, like, subscribe. Check the bell if you're already subscribed.